Every November the mustaches start to appear, all for a really great cause, raising awareness for men's mental health. But what if you're a manager? You're in the trenches with your team. Things are moving fast. What's the most powerful thing you can actually do this month? Well, it might have nothing to do with facial hair. Turns out it's all about how you listen. So let's get into it.
So let's just start with this question. What if the most impactful thing you could do for your team's well-being isn't some grand gesture, but actually a small, fundamental shift in your regular one-on-ones? We're going to explore how that one tiny shift can make a massive difference.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll go beyond the mustache. Then, we'll dive into something I see all the time, the status update trap. After that, we'll get practical with a framework for listening. Clarify why this is leadership, not therapy. And then, we'll connect all the dots, showing how we get from care to performance.
All right, Section 1, Beyond the Mustache. Look, awareness campaigns are great. They're super important. But your real power as a manager, it comes from consistently creating the space for your people to actually feel heard. It really is that simple. It's about listening.
I mean, think about it. Companies love to roll out these big, shiny wellness programs. But what do most people really need? It's not another meditation app or a one-off seminar. They just need consistent, calm, genuine check-ins where they feel seen as a human being, not just a cog in the machine.
Okay, so this brings us to a huge problem for so many managers, and honestly, even the best of us fall into it. I call it the status update trap, and it might be quietly sabotaging the very trust you're trying to build in your one-on-ones.
Just look at this. The contrast is pretty stark, right? On the left, you've got your typical one-on-one. It's all about tasks, deadlines, blockers. Yeah, it's efficient, but it's totally transactional. On the right, that's the shift. It's focusing on them, their well-being, the pressures they're under, what they need. It's a whole different conversation. Because when your one-on-one is just a project status meeting in disguise, this is the unspoken message your team member is hearing. You might not mean to send it, but that relentless focus on output screams that their personal state just doesn't matter as much. The very structure of your meeting is sending a message. Okay, so how do we avoid that trap? Section 3 gives us a really practical 4-step framework. And this isn't about some massive overhaul either. It's about making a few small, intentional tweaks to your very next meeting. Let's break this down. Step 1 is start with presence. So instead of the automatic, "How are you?" you ask, "How are you arriving today?" See the difference? That little word change invites a real answer, not just, "I'm fine." Step 2, name the pressure. Really listen for what's weighing on them, and then just say it back. Acknowledging it shows you're actually paying attention. Step 3, act on one lever. You can't fix their whole life, right? So just focus on one small thing you can control, like protecting an afternoon for them to do deep work. This shows you're not just listening, you're doing something about it. And finally, step 4, and this is crucial, close the loop. Just briefly bring it up in your next meeting. That one little action proves you're remembered, it proves you care, and it builds so much trust over time.
Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Whoa, hold on. If I open the door to all these feelings, am I going to have to be a therapist? And that's a fair concern. But this section is all about why that's not the case. This isn't therapy, it's just fundamental leadership.
This slide right here clarifies the whole thing perfectly. Your role isn't to be a counselor. Your job is to be an architect. You design the conditions where people can actually breathe, think clearly, and do their best work without burning out. It's about the environment, not the diagnosis. So when you use that simple 4-step framework, you're not just having a nice chat. You are actively building the foundations of a high-performing team. You create psychological safety just by giving someone your undivided attention. You build real, solid trust by following up. And you model empathy, all while keeping things clear. This is literally what leadership looks like in action. All right, let's bring it all home and connect this back to what really matters for the business. Because this whole human-centric approach, it's not just some nice-to-have, fluffy thing. It is directly and powerfully linked to tangible results and team performance. Here's the formula. It's this simple. When you genuinely show you care for the individual, you improve their working conditions. It's a fact. They feel safer, they feel more focused, they feel supported. And what happens when working conditions improve? Performance naturally follows. It's a direct line, and it all starts with you.
So let me be really clear. This is not about sacrificing performance for feelings. Not at all. It's about understanding that creating an environment where people feel genuinely heard is one of the most powerful performance-enhancing strategies you have. Full stop.
And that really just leaves us with one final question for you to think about before your next one-on-one. Is it going to be just another status update, reinforcing that unspoken message that output is all that matters? Or are you going to use these simple steps to start turning it into a safe space where real connection, real trust, and ultimately, great work can actually begin? The choice is yours.